Welcome to the next video in my series on scripting. So in the last video, we talked about the different data types. In this video, we're going to cover the importance of entity IDs. So what are entity IDs and why are they so important? So let's go to the map editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place down Justin. Okay, in fact, let's place down a row of Justins. Okay. So let's say we had a script where what we wanted to have is the middle Justin disappears, let's say, okay? So we could write a script that says, make Justin disappear. If we treated it like like as if it was a sentence, make Justin disappear. What the script's going to come back with is, which Justin? Which of these 5 Justins should I make disappear? So that's where entity IDs come in, and that's why they are so important. They are how your scripts know which specific thing, whether it's a tile, an object, or a character, or an item, or anything in IPG in a box. Everything has IDs. Quests have IDs, widgets have IDs, elements within widgets have IDs, dialogue has IDs, everything has an ID. So where is the entity ID information? So if you click on one of your objects or characters or tiles and go to the entity properties in the map editor, scroll up, it's the very first option. And all you have to do is just give it an ID. So let's say I call this Justin_3 because it's the third Justin in the line. As soon as I click off, you see this purple tag appear in the map editor. This purple tag is a visual indication that this object has an ID. You can clearly see these ones do not. Another way of telling if a thing has an ID or not is to look in the entity overview down here in the bottom right-hand box of the map editor. You can see the model, the coordinate of this particular model entity, and its ID, and any groups it's in, and any dialogue that it has assigned to it. But more specifically, we can see at a glance that it doesn't have an ID. Neither does this one, neither does this one, and neither does this one. But if we click on the middle Justin, we can see his ID is Justin_3. Okay? It's important to know that IDs have to be unique. So if I was to click this Justin, for example, and try to give him the same ID, Justin_3, the moment I click off, RPG in a Box is going to warn me that the specified ID that I've just typed is already assigned to another entity in the map, and it will be overridden. So if I say OK, which I'm not going to do, it will remove the ID that I set on the middle one, and it's going to instead put it on. In fact, I can show you. Let's click OK, and you can see it's jumped. So no longer does this Justin now have an ID anymore. I've moved it to Justin_3, which I may not want, because I actually still want this one to be Justin_3. So if I put it back, and again, it's going to complain because now Justin_3 is over here, but I can move it back. So IDs have to be unique, because it's how your scripts know, again, which Justin you're referring to. So it wouldn't help if I called all of these Justin_3 anyway, because it would just be the same as saying, remove Justin. And the script's going to go, which Justin? Remove Justin_3. Which Justin_3? You've called them all Justin_3. So IDs have to be unique. It's the unique identifier. It's like a telephone number. It's the number you dial to get that specific person to answer the phone. So it's how your scripts know which entity you're referring to. So in this case, I've given this particular version of Justin the ID Justin_3. So now in my script, I can say, for example, remove entity Justin_3, and it now knows which Justin to remove. And if we apply and save that, and we quickly run the game, let's save the map. And we bring down the console and we type execute script 1. Justin has disappeared. Yeah, there's only 4 Justins now. So that's the importance of entity IDs, and you should set them on any type of object that should be referenced by a script. So characters, tiles, anything that's going to be manipulated or altered in some way via a script or referenced via a script is going to need to have an ID. Otherwise, your scripts are not going to know what entity you're referring to. Okay? Now that we've established that rule, I am going to explain the exception to the rule. Okay? The exception to the rule is if you assign a script directly to the entity itself. So let's go back to our script where we've got this remove entity, and we're specifying Justin free because we're telling this script, I want you to remove this specific Justin here. Okay, and it knows to do that, and so it does. We saw it successfully remove Justin free. However, what if I was instead to put this script directly onto this version of Justin? So if I was to select Justin and go to when player interacts, run script 1. So now, when I interact with this particular Justin, it's going to run this script. This is still going to work, but we actually don't need to specify the ID of Justin anymore because this script is actually assigned to directly the specific Justin that I want to remove. So instead, what we can do is we can use an inbuilt, very helpful reference called self. And you see that's in yellow, and it's not a string. Refer again to data types. Justin free was a string because its IDs are always strings, but self is not a string. It's a valid data type that references the entity that the script is assigned to. So self is always what the script is assigned to, and it will change depending on what the script is assigned to. So in this case, because the script is now assigned to Justin, self equals the NPC or the character. Okay? If I was to take this script off of Justin and instead assign it to this tile here, let's say when I enter the tile, run script 1, now self is going to equal the tile. Okay? It's going to remove that tile. So self is a very useful thing to know if you are attaching a script to a specific entity. It can be used as a shorthand to automatically reference that entity. Another one worth knowing is initiator. An initiator is typically the entity that activated the script. So a good way to explain this is if we go to game configuration and global events. Let's say we have a script assigned to character is damaged. Okay? Self would be the character that is damaged. So let's say, for example, you had a goblin and a player, and the goblin hit the player, and the player took some damage. If you had a script assigned to character is damaged, in that moment, self would be the player, because the player is taking the damage. Initiator would be the goblin, because the goblin initiated the damage. It caused the damage. Okay? If the player was to then hit the goblin back, they would flip. Self would then become the goblin, because the goblin is now the character being damaged, and the player would be the initiator, because they caused the damage. So again, initiator is a reference that changes depending on who or what is in that situation. Okay? And self is another thing that changes depending on the situation. So if a script is assigned to a tile, self will be the tile. If a script is assigned to an object, self will be the object. If a script is assigned to a character, self will be the character. If you're attaching a script to some arbitrary thing like camera direction changes or quest given or quest completed, self will most likely be a non-existent value. It will come back as not being set to anything. So be careful with that as well. If your script is assigned to something like camera direction changes or tool item changes, it may not necessarily be the thing you expect it to be. So in those kind of scenarios, you probably want to reference specifically the ID of the thing you're trying to remove in those particular circumstances. But we can talk a little bit more perhaps about this in the next video, which is debugging, because that's what you would use to test that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. But for now, that is the topic of entity IDs. I hope it's been informative about why IDs are important and what they're for, and also what you can use instead of ID sometimes, like self and initiator. So hopefully that's been clear, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video in the series.